All right, guys, live from the studio here. I am so glad you guys are here, and we have a great chat ready for us today. It's a chat that's very important to discuss in light of things going on, and my posts that are always really directed at helping as many dogs as we can, doing as best as we can for our dogs, and doing the best for the situation. So I posted a video a few weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, which was the first in the series with Whiskey, which was a dog I trained, a Malinois, that had some aggression issues towards other dogs. And later we found out it was towards other people as well. I posted part 2 of it this last week. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. And I got a lot of comments, a lot of feedback from you guys that you really liked it. And I appreciate that very, very much. It's really important for me to get that feedback from you. I really enjoy hearing from you, discussing these things with you, and seeing your posts, your comments, your shares on these videos, as well as all my lessons, because it shows me that what I'm putting out there resonates with you guys. And I think that's real important. The topic of today's discussion is training aggressive dogs, whether that be dogs who are aggressive towards other dogs, whether dogs are aggressive towards people, whether they're aggressive towards other objects. For example, objects could be an animal, squirrels, cats, or whatever, or have this aggression, which can be a prey drive issue towards bicycles, cars, skateboards, or whatever. These are important things we need to think about when we train dogs, but I want to really focus on the underlying issue of true aggression, and that is aggression towards other dogs as well as people. So when we take this into consideration, we're always going to be met with this question, and it's one of the questions that came up on my Facebook feed. And the question this person asked, it said, I hope there will be a discussions on the difference between aggression and reaction. And that's the first part of this I want to tackle before I take any questions or anything else. This conversation that happens, and oftentimes it happens with people. I heard somebody talking about it recently on a podcast. I heard somebody talking about it in rescue. It happens a lot. People want to ignore the dog being aggressive. Now, this is a trap I fell into and I kind of played into for quite a while when I was doing rescue work, because you don't want to say a dog is aggressive, because when you say the dog is aggressive, you immediately blacklist that dog. That dog is now not adoptable, not able to be sold, not able to be placed in a home. People can't rehome the dog. Nobody wants an aggressive dog, let's face it. People always say, well, if the dog's aggressive, maybe you could work for the police department. Police departments don't want aggressive dogs. Nobody wants an aggressive dog. Now, the psych out term that people say, well, let's talk about the difference between reactive and aggressive. Well, I'm going to say something to you real simply. If the dog's reaction to the stimulus is lunging, growling, barking, snapping, that response, that reaction is aggression, right? If people always say there's a big difference between fear aggression and dominance-based aggression, and there is, I don't disagree with that. But if a dog is reacting in an aggressive way, whether that be fearful aggression or dominance aggression, it is still aggression. The dog is choosing to act out in a way that will prove damaging to the person or animal on the receiving end of those teeth. Now, fear aggression is really dangerous, because a dog or a person who's fighting for their life is going to fight much harder than a creature that's just fighting to whatever, to show its strength or whatever. Dominant dogs are less dangerous because they're confident generally. Dogs that are fearful are very dangerous, right? Because they're fighting for their life. Now, approaching the training is very, very, very different. And I'll discuss that briefly if you guys want to talk about that. But the main topic here I want to get into is that if a dog is reactive and is lunging and barking and snapping, the dog is reactive in an aggressive way, and the dog must be dealt with it. That you cannot then coddle the dog and say, oh, he's just reactive because he doesn't know what that is. He may not know what it is, but he knows what he's doing. He's trying to fend it off, scare it off, push it off through either a bluff or a real personality trait, which is pushing the issue through aggression. This is an important thing to address for people and also for people to understand that if you have a dog that has this personality, this drive, this characteristic, this trait, whatever you want to call it, you must get that in check. Many trainers out there will tell you, oh, I fix aggression. You don't fix aggression. I've dealt with aggression for many years. I've dealt with it on many dogs and in many situations. Aggression is not a spark plug that you change and it fixes the problem. Aggression is the behavior that you need to manage through structure, through fair interaction. If the dog is fearful, the dog must be built, the confidence must be built up in the dog, and that takes a long time. If the dog is overtly brazen and dominant, then that needs to be put in check. But aggression is not there's no cure for aggression, right? There is management things for aggression, and there are things we need to do to be able to manage a dog when they are aggressive. So if a dog is aggressive to children or running around or skateboards or other dogs or other animals, you cannot, under any situation, put a child or another animal in danger or in harm's way to try to fix that dog. I'm really, really against that. If you have a dog that is aggressive, don't introduce him to other animals. Get the situation managed first, right? And people say, well, if the dog is dog aggressive, how can you get the dog managed without putting another dog in front of it? Well, first of all, you build a relationship. You build a training structure to get the dog in check, to get the dog to respond to you, to respect you, and to acknowledge your presence, that he will listen to you. You can introduce some distractions. You can find things the dog might like, a ball, a toy, food, whatever that is. You can have a neutral dog at a distance behind a fence. You can put the dog in a crate. You can do these things, but you must take steps, and trainers must take the right steps to protect the other dog. Now, I've done this numerous times, and you've seen me do it with my dog, where I would put Goofy on a place, just set him in the middle of the field, and I would walk a dog around. But it was rarely, if ever, that I let someone else handle their aggressive dog in front of my dog. My number one job is to protect my dog, right? That's critical. I must protect the neutral dog. When I took Jimmy out, my number one job is to protect my neutral dog. When I was in the shelter and I had a neutral dog and I took an aggressive dog out, my number one job is to protect the neutral dog. If you cannot do that, you cannot train aggressive dogs. You cannot and should not, under any way, train aggressive dogs. Now, dog trainers should listen to what I'm about to say. There are two issues that I see with dog trainers who deal with aggression. One, if you can get the dog to not be aggressive to other dogs, that's great. But it does not in any way solve the problem. You're bringing in a newness factor. You're bringing in dominance. You're bringing in a characteristic, a knowledge of how to train the dog and how to handle that dog. I can take 90 some odd % of cases I get, and simply by removing the person and putting the dog with me, get the dog to react in a non-aggressive way. But that doesn't solve the problem, because I'm not taking the dog home. I'm not interested in adopting this dog. I'm not interested in giving this dog a new life with me. It's still their dog. So when you send a dog away for a board and train, or you're the trainer who takes this dog in a board and train, you must expose this dog, get this dog to see this picture in a new way. I get it. That is part of the methodology. That's not my issue. My issue is when the people show up and the trainer is now handling the dog and saying, look, the dog's fine. Look, no aggression. Look, there's no issues here. It's all fixed. One, it's not fixed. It's managed because you're handling the dog. More importantly, you have to hand that leash back over to the person. The person must learn the skill. The dog must learn that the relationship between the owner and them is changing. That's critical. That's piece number one. And piece number two is dog trainers must be brutally honest with their clients in the cases of dog aggression. If you as a trainer have a case and this dog is aggressive and it's not manageable, right? It's not manageable for the owners, not for you. It's not manageable for the owners. Then you must have the courage to be honest enough with a client and say that this dog can't stay with you. This dog might need to be put down, because it's imperative that as a dog trainer that you take into consideration the overall safety of every creature at the receiving end of that dog's mouth and teeth. Is there a little child who could get bit? Is there another animal that could get killed? Is there a person? This unknowing situation is what's so damaging in dog training, because dog trainers don't want to admit it. You know, I've told dog trainers many times when they call me for advice and they say, geez, this dog is just so aggressive, there's nothing we can do. Then I say, then you need to help them put that dog down. Now, that should be from a person who trains dogs, who understands this, right? If your specialty isn't aggressive dogs, for example, like if I don't train agility and I can't get the dog to go through weave poles, it doesn't mean the dog can't go through weave poles. It means my skill set is not there to teach the weave poles to that dog. And if your skill set, excuse me, is not there to teach aggression or to understand aggression or to how to manage aggression, how to counter aggression, that dog should go to someone who specializes in that. There's no shame when I go to my doctor and I have something with my skin that he's going to refer me to a dermatologist. But in dog training, dog trainers feel that they need to do everything. People ask me all the time, why don't you do protection dog stuff on your website? Because that's not my specialty. I love the sport. I admire so many people who do the sport. You know, the Peter Schecks, the Florian Knobels, the Frank Phillips, one of my big heroes, Frank Phillips, Oscar Mora, right? These people who are really, really great at the sport. Avi, you know, these are people who I look to, but I don't do it. So when it comes to aggression, if a trainer specializes in that and then sees that this dog can't do it, and you have to be honest, right? Because so many of these trainers say, no, it can be done. I did it. Just because you can do it doesn't mean they can do it. And there might be a time where you have to have that discussion. I've always said to my clients, if I can't help you with the aggression, I will go with you to put the dog down. I'll sit with you and I'll sit with your dog if that's what you need, because it would be that bad. Now, to this day, I haven't had that. But in the shelter, there's been plenty of dogs that not plenty, but you know, a handful of dogs. It would be a very small number considering the number I handle, but to me, it's too many, where I advocated for their euthanasia, for them being put down. And in that case, it is euthanasia because the dog can't have a life. So that's my take on aggression. That's my overall dissertation, that aggression is one, it's never managed. Aggression is never cured. Aggression is only managed. We must be honest with people when it cannot be managed, that the dog might need to be put down. And we must understand the difference as trainers, as ethical, reputable, honest trainers, that it's not me being able to handle the dog or change the dog's personality. I must hand that leash back. You'll see that in the last two videos I put on YouTube about whiskey. They're about a month apart. And you'll see that in every situation, I hand the leash back to the client and say, okay, now let's have you try it. Let me do it. Let me show you how it's done. Let me show the dog what I expect and the corrections. And then I'm going to hand the leash back to you. Now, a lot of times, this is where tools like an e-collar will come in, because an e-collar levels the playing field. I push the button, you push the button. I teach the dog this button means this. You do it, the dog still equates it to the same. You take the e-collar away, you take away that ability. You certainly will take away the ability for that dog to receive a clear correction at a distance, whether that dog is chasing sheep, like they go through in territories like that in the United States and in Europe. Take away the e-collar, you take away a big tool. Take away tools in general, which is a big movement, and you take away the ability for a dog owner, a dog lover, to be able to communicate with their dog and help them. And you will be putting those dogs down. So we have to understand that we brought dogs into society. We must give them structure. Structure is a good thing. Through that structure, we can live with them. But remember, they're still animals. As much as I love my dogs, and I love my dogs, and I understand that they must listen. And they're strong dogs, and I like strong dogs. I like strong personality dogs. They must listen. And I have achieved that. My dogs are very happy. My dogs are very safe. And I intend that every dog I have is like that. And it's also my intention that every person that I help with their dog, that they understand that and they can get to attain that themselves. So that being said, I'm going to go to questions. If you have a question for me, a couple things. One is I will ask you, please hit the subscribe button and subscribe to my channel, because this is the #1 way that I grow the channel, which helps me immensely. It's also the #1 way that I can get my message to more people. Share these videos. Go on my site, on my YouTube channel, and share the videos. And consider, if you really enjoy what you see on YouTube, to head over to robertcabral.com and join, because my monthly membership it's $20 a month. There's hundreds of videos. There's almost 200 videos now, dog training videos. And the funny thing is, people always say, oh, I have 100 videos on my channel. Yeah, but how much content is there? My videos on robertcabral.com cover everything from pet dog, trick dog training, to aggression, to basic obedience, to competitive obedience, to all and everything in between. There's everything you could possibly ever want, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So anyway, excuse me. I'm going to do one thing here early on. This is a book I wrote a long time ago called Desperate Dogs, Determined Measures. I'm going to give away a copy of it today. All I need you to do is to subscribe to the channel and like this video. And if you do that, come back in. At the end, I will pick one person. I'm just going to ask that you live in the United States, and I'll send you an autographed copy of my book. If you want an autograph, if you don't, that's fine. It's worth a lot more without the autograph. I will send a copy of the book to you. Just need to give me your address somewhere in the United States, and preferably if you're a dog trainer, because this deals with dealing with shelter dogs. If you're helping rescue dogs and stuff, this will be a really good book for you to have. So I will do that in the next 10 minutes. Somebody remind me. If you have a question, please put a question mark in front of your question, and then I will address it. So let's go through here. Let's see. I'm going to see if there are any questions here per se. Thank you for all those thumbs up. It really means a lot to me. Let's see. All right. I'm looking for questions. Thank you, Joni, for the super chat. Very kind of you. Very nice. Always appreciated. Not necessary, but appreciated. Let's see. Okay. Trying to find questions here. So bear with me for a second. I'm going to scroll back to the bottom. If you have a question, like I said, I need you to put a question. Okay, here's a question mark. Why I don't do board and trains if I can help it. Yeah, so that's a very good point. I have nothing against board and trains. I think the problem with a lot of board and trains is that a lot of times it can be an operation. And Oscar Moore and I talked about this the other day in a podcast that's on his YouTube. You should watch. I don't have a link to it here, but there is a link to it on my Facebook. You need to understand that a lot of trainers who are doing board and trains take in 10 dogs, 5 dogs, whatever it is, 5, 10, 20 dogs, more. And they go in a kennel, they come out, they work for 15 minutes, they go back in the kennel, the next one comes out, works for 15 minutes, goes back in the kennel, boom. And they go all the way down the line. And the dogs will come out 3 times. Now, that helps the dog to, one, understand exactly what they should be doing because they're not doing anything else. But the problem with board and trains is it's not a realistic setting, right? The dog is living in a kennel. The best way for a board and train to work properly is for the dog to live in the home with the person as it would live with you and learn structure that way. So sometimes you get lucky and you'll have somebody who will take the dog to actually live with them and train with them. That's a big difference in how dogs will learn that. So really, really, really important. Let's see, what's this here? Daily, Lana, that was my fear, to be honest, but I know my boy and he all talk, and after a while, see a person who comes out. Yeah, as long as you have a safe dog, there's nothing I'm gonna say about that. Let's see here. Dawn. My husband won't let our Mal go for further house training. We have never spent a night away from her. One of us is always with her. He is not comfortable letting someone else handle and train her. There's nothing wrong with that. I understand that. But I will tell you something that's really important. You don't want to build separation anxiety in your dog. And a Malinois is a real easy dog to build that in because they're very thin nerve dogs. Like a thicker nerve dog, like a Labrador, German Shepherd, Rottweiler, whatever, is less likely to develop this. If a dog is too needy and you don't give the dog early on the ability to be without you, you're going to have a big problem, a really big problem. When I was early on with my puppy, with Goofy, when he was a puppy, I had somebody watch him. I mean, I never bored. I did board him, actually. I boarded him at a place in Thousand Oaks. And that was, he didn't like it. He didn't like it. He would wet in the kennel area. So that wasn't like him. But he had to learn, right? The tough love of giving your dog the ability to do things. Like if your dog doesn't like something, it doesn't mean they shouldn't do it. If it's important for the dog, they should do it. It's like your kid may not want to eat his spinach. You may just want to eat, chocolate all day. You may have an issue with your dog where your dog doesn't want to, go outside when it's raining, but it's important. The dog's going to wet now. So I would be really careful with that with your dog. Let's see. Okay, my pet peeve is there's always a loose dog in my neighborhood. People think because their dog is friendly, that's okay, just let them run loose. So I can't, well, that really sucks. And I have an issue with that too, because it's not really about dogs being loose, that they're friendly, but if they're friendly and they come up to other dogs who aren't friendly, it puts everybody at risk. The key thing here, this is what I always tell people, I do not train dogs to be dog friendly. I train dogs to be dog neutral. So if I'm training my dog at the park and my dog is off leash, my dog will not, under any conditions, run up to another dog. But they don't like other dogs running up to them. Now, my dogs won't bite. They won't attack another dog running up to them, but they don't like it. And I don't like it. So I usually get in the dog's face first and send them away, because remember something. If you have a dog and it's off leash, you're assuming that every other dog is going to be friendly to your dog, and they're not. So when you teach your dog to be dog friendly, you put your dog at great risk of running up to a dog that might be on a leash, that might not be friendly, and your dog might get bit. So please think about that when you teach your dog that. Let's see. Yes, I said that. I hope that's a rhetorical question. It's aggression towards other dogs. Like Maya had a lot of reactivity dogs. She's totally managed now. She's great with any dog I bring in my house. She was great with our little Bosman, our little 9-10 pound mini dachshund. She's great with other dogs that are around her. But would she do that if it wasn't with me? I don't know. And that's something you really, really want to think about. Okay, Brianne says, what if your dog loves other dogs and plays extremely well, but will bark occasionally at other dog while walking on a leash? Well, then the dog is just barking. That's something completely different. Usually, that's a good indication that the dog is barking because it wants to play. But I would encourage you not to let your dog to run up to other dogs and play with them, because I think you're setting yourself up for something really dangerous. Doesn't some of this aggression come from the parents? Genetic aggression can come from the parents. So if you have a line of dogs that have aggression in their lines, then yes, that dog can be aggressive to other dogs. There's also learned aggression. So learned aggression is something that the dog will learn from its environment, from other dogs, from people, from the way it's handled. That if a dog gets attacked, let's say, then that dog could end up becoming aggressive or having more aggression issues. So a lot of different things to consider. Natasha says, are dogs usually born with an aggression problem, or is it usually because of lack of knowledge when purchasing a puppy? When you pick your puppy from a litter, is there any signs to look for? Well, if a dog is, well bred, then it shouldn't have aggression in its lines. It can still sneak through here and there. And depending on the type of dog, like you're a lot less likely to find aggression in lines like a golden retriever or a Labrador than you are to find in a line like a German Shepherd or Malinois or something like that, because they're bred to be more dominant. Golden retrievers are not bred to be dominant dogs. So that could be in there. Is there something to look for? I mean, look at the way the dog interacts with its other litter mates. Might be the first thing. Your exposure of that dog to other dogs, if you take the dog home at 8-9 weeks, and then suddenly the dog is attacked by your neighbor's dog or one of your dogs at the house, can certainly shift things and put the dog in a very suspicious state, and that dog could become aggressive. So it's something I would really consider watching. So there is no usually, all right, let's see here. Trying to find, if you have a question for me, please put a question mark in front of it so I know, because otherwise I don't know. And I'm going to start skipping these now. Okay, Pet Prep Radio Show. 7-month-old German GSD male, German Shepherd dog, male, female pup, showed me some aggressive behavior the other day. How do I deal with that to not squelch her for protection or support? Well, aggression, depending on playful aggression, which is a lot what's used to teach protection, and territorial aggression, stuff like that, is used to teach protection sports. You don't want the dog to have aggressive behaviors when it's not related to the sport. In other words, if things like, and I read this in Peter Streck and Florian Knobel's book, they had a really good idea that they only introduce the protection aspect, the barking, the lunging, the aggressive behavior, the dominance type behavior in the context of the sport. So in other words, there's always a blind up. And in other situations, the dog must be social. But a dog should never show aggressive behavior towards you, the owner. And you need to really put that in check. Now, it's 7 months old. In that 7 to 10 month window, 9 months is really the ideal time, where I would say you're going to see that kind of come out of a dog a little bit. You may see a bit of dominance, a little bit of bravado. And if it's towards you, you've got to put it in check. You've got to be able to grab that dog and make sure that dog knows that aggression is not ever okay to you. That's crystal clear. Cheryl says, you speak truth. As a trainer who deals with problematic dogs, the owner has to be able to handle their dog. I only do pet dogs. I'm training people in a shelter. I was training dogs. Very good. Well, if you're training dogs in a shelter, I'm going to put you on a list to get a copy of my Desperate Dogs Determined Measures book. By the way, the shelter dog program does cover a lot of that stuff. Let's see. Okay, you got a lot of people here. I'm a dog trainer. I live in the United States. Very good, Stephen. That's good. Okay, so then I know now why you're asking your question. So territorial aggression, David, is when a dog is territorial, when a dog claims an area. For example, I put the dog on the bed and I come near the bed and the dog starts to snarl or growl because he thinks you're going to take that away. It's territorial aggression is a form of resource aggression. For example, the number one resource aggression that you'll always see is food. So when a dog is eating and he thinks you're going to take the food away, you come near the food, he growls and snaps at you. We need to teach the dog that two things. One, if we're going to take something away, it's our right and it's going to come back. And two, we have the right to take things away. We must make the dog feel safe in all situations. For example, if Goofy or Maya or whatever is chewing a bone and I walk over and I take the bone away, I don't have to worry about them chomping at my hand. I do that through fair association. When I start out, I always give them another bone. I give them another bone. I swap back and forth. And at some point, I take both bones. But at their age, now they're all older. Goofy's 13, Maya's 12 and a half. They must understand that I am in a position that I control everything. And you have to get your dog to understand that. Dog trainer Steve, nice to see you. Some force feed trainers in my country are saying that that they're dog trainer that are not certified are not real dog trainers. What is your opinion on that? Some force feed trainers in my country are saying that dog trainer I see. So the force feed trainers say that dog trainers who are not certified are not real dog trainers. Well, here's the problem. A certification is only worth its weight in paper, which is not very much. It's only good based on the organization that issued that certification. And all those certifications that I have seen are issued by force-free organizations. So certification is such a funny term. Like I've given certificates for my shelter dog course, which people can still do online. I've given certification for my in-person training when I did the Bound Angels program at the shelters. So I used to just say, you're certified in having taken this much training and understanding this much based on the tests you've taken. That their information, their certification is only limited to what that person was taught. And in these situations, like you're talking with force-free trainers, they're only espousing what they learned, which is a dogma of dog training that involves purely positive, force-free, which is a nice concept, works on some dogs, but it's flawed in that it does not take into consideration, if you want to go into a scientific dissertation on it, it does not take into account 3/4, 75% of the science of dog training, right? There's 4 quadrants that are 3 of which are completely dismissed because force-free trainers only use one. So they're wrong, because they only understand one aspect. Most balanced trainers that I know really delve from one to the other, to the other, to the other. I mean, we're always moving between even if you don't know what the quadrants are. If you're a balanced trainer, if you're training dogs with treats and corrections and everything, you're using all of that. So just take it with a grain of salt. Do you have apprenticeships? I don't. I'm so sorry. I don't do that because I don't have, I've moved my model of my business to being more of the, helping people online with all this stuff. When I was in the shelter, I always had people shadow, the whole program was based on people shadowing me for 3 days and learning from me. So, but at this point I don't. All right, let's see. Okay. I'm going to do the book right now. I'm going to give the book away right now. So I'm going to scroll through here, and I'm hoping what I'll need you to do, whoever gets this, okay? And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 2, and I'm hoping that you're in the United States. Okay, so first one is going to be Pet Pro Radio Show. You're the first winner of the book. What I need you to do is to go to my site and fill out a contact form and send me your address. And please, if you're not in the United States, I can't send it to you. So, all right, here I'm going to find the second winner of the Desperate Dogs book. I'm sending out 2 copies. And if you'd like it autographed, then please let me know. Let's see here. I need to know you're subscribed. Okay, and the second book is going to go to Flag Rontal. So please go over to my website and send me your name and address. Hopefully you're in the United States. If you're not, I can't send it to you because it's, some countries I can, but you send me your name and address. So anyway, let's keep going. And I will give away more copies of the book in future things because I have several copies I'm trying to get rid of here. Thank you for that. And like I said, please keep sharing my work. So David, you got a question here. Back to questions. I got it's a long one. My daughter adopted a 1-year-old Malinois from the Humane Society. She did multiple visits and even had her Malinois meet him. I met him at the shelter too. He was good at the shelter. When she brought him, he became aggressive to visit her. He has showed no aggression to her. So has went to multiple trainers and dog behaviors. One said you can't correct his aggressiveness because he may then not show his signal. Yeah, and that may be more dangerous. Hang on a second. That'd be more dangerous. Okay, so This is a purely positive trick, right? So what happens is they will say to you, it's called pushing out warning signals. And what they want the dog to do, they say, oh, it's okay if he barks, because if you stop the bark, then the dog will go straight to the bite. And nothing could be further from the truth. Dogs that have an issue, a behavioral issue, it's built upon behaviors, and it's built upon a building of frustration. So in other words, the dog is frustrated and he has one behavior. Then he growls, then he barks, then he snaps, then he bites. So if you get rid of the behaviors near the bottom, the growling, the lunging, and the barking, then he's not going to bite, right? In other words, if you take those rungs off the ladder, you can't get to the top rung. But by reinforcing these rungs, they always teach the dog, okay, it's okay if you bark. It's okay if you bark because you're telling me you're going to bite. Well, it's not okay if you're going to bite because I don't want you to bite. So that's just a bad trainer. Now, the reason he was not aggressive in the Humane Society and he's aggressive at home is because he's now found his comfort zone. And this is really common. Dogs that are not aggressive in the shelter may become aggressive when they get home. Right? Dogs who are aggressive in the shelter may not be aggressive when they get home. You don't know that until you get the dog home. But the key thing is to infuse structure into this dog's life. Everything comes with structure. Now, of course, he's not going to be aggressive to her at this point because she's feeding him. He's smart. He's trying to keep everybody else away. So you come in the house, I decide. But that can't be the way it is. I decide. When somebody comes to my house, I decide, not my dog. So your daughter must decide. So I would try to get her in touch with a good balanced trainer, somebody who can give the dog fair structure, fair obedience, and because Malinois don't like things that aren't fair. You know, if they've done something correct and you ask them to do it again and you're correcting them because it's not whatever, the dog may get upset about that. So the dog must understand that everything's fair, and I would really focus on that with this dog. Let's see. Okay. Okay, service dog handler here. How can I help her with confidence? Well, you know, first of all, for service dogs, I have a big issue when people want to make any dog a service dog, right? Any dog can't be a service dog. Any dog can't be a protection dog. Any dog can't be a champion, agility dog. There are certain things that are required, right? If a dog has an issue jumping or is afraid of the tunnels, the dog can't go into agility. If the dog doesn't have the confidence in a social setting, then the dog can't be a service dog. And you've got to be really fair on picking the right dogs. Don't pick a dog that's not comfortable in a social environment and try to make that dog into a service dog. If the dog doesn't have the temperament for it, the dog's not cut out for it. It might be a really great pet, but it can't be a service dog. Please, please, please be fair to dogs if you're training service dogs. Joni says, my Mal German Shepherd mix has gotten much better about his reactivity to other dogs in the park. However, in the car, he'll growl and bark, and I'm not sure how to manage that. He's 18 weeks old, so I'm not sure. Well, first of all, he's 18 weeks old. You shouldn't even be, worried about this. You should be really focused on building the dog's confidence, making things fun, exposure. Let the dog see that it's a good thing in the car, reinforce good behaviors. At 18 weeks, it's too soon to really figure out. I mean, you're talking about a 4.5-month-old dog. It's too soon to figure out the dog is being aggressive. You don't know what the dog's doing at this point. You need to get the good behaviors reinforced. Try to ignore bad behaviors unless they are aggressive. Like if a dog is growling and barking at other dogs when he's in the car, maybe he wants to come out and play. Make sure you reinforce the good things in this dog and don't be too hard on puppies. This is a big, big, big mistake people make. Okay, you know what, dog trainer Cebu, I'm going to send you one because I've been following you on Facebook and you're doing great work over there in the Philippines. So I'm going to send you one too. Head over to that's the third book. That's all I got today. But head over. I will, if you have a U.S. address, I'll send you a copy of the book. It'd be my pleasure to do that. I really love your work. Okay. Okay. So if you remember the site, I already said you're getting one. Some of the corrections don't seem to work. I don't know what you're talking. Oh, so okay with it. Well, that's because they're not fair, right? If you're the one who's talking about the Malinois from the shelter, the Humane Society, and I can't keep addressing this one thing because I want to get to as many questions as I can. Corrections don't work if they're not taught, if they're not reinforced, and if they don't mean something. You need to teach a dog to learn. So I teach them what yes means. I teach them what no means. I teach them that no means, as a pop on a leash, it means there's no treat coming. It means it's blocking what the dog is about to do. But I also need to be able to do that, right? That's really critical. And that's something people overlook. That if I have a 60-pound dog or a 70-pound dog, I need to be able to physically manipulate the dog in a way that the dog understands that I'm blocking that behavior. Now, that would be hard. It would be, I always said this yesterday on my member live chat. I would not own, for example, a Tibetan Mastiff. It's a huge dog, right? I wouldn't own a dog over, say, 120 pounds because I don't think at my size, I still could now, but maybe in a few years, I couldn't correct the dog. And I don't want to struggle with dogs. I want a dog that I can manipulate, handle, coerce to doing things if I want to. If I have to physically control the dog, I have to be able to do that. And if you can't, then it's very, very hard to do that. It's very, very hard to give the dog that correction. Okay. All right, let me take this question first. The difference between reactive and aggressive, I'm going to touch this really quickly. If you rewind the video, you'll see I already covered it. Here's the thing. Reactions are how a dog responds. A dog can respond aggressively, and it's aggressive. Like if a dog sees something going by and he's lunging at the line, rah, 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 that's an aggressive response. Now, if the dog is reactive, the dog is showing a behavior. Is the dog playful? Is he barking in a playful way? That's different. That means the dog is reactive to the dog. The third part of this would be a dog that's neutral. It means when something walks by or a person walks by or a skateboard or whatever, the dog has no reaction. That is zero reaction. So I hope that answers your question. Now I'm going to go back to this question, which I originally put up here. Thank you for your educational videos. I have a question. I have problems with my dogs. I have maintained a rule of separation. A separation rule from me. So when they eat, they don't bring the food all over the house. One of them does like hamster. The other has food and personal items, territorial aggressiveness. So I decided to tie them up for an hour or two every day, but for the past year or less, then take it off when I leave the room. I've also tied harnesses. They both take it off in 2.3 seconds. What can I do? What's going on in their minds? Just stopping putting on collars and harnesses. I decided to put gates in each room. I want them to be. Well, the gates in the room is going to be a much better situation for you. Like I would look more for that than I would look for harnesses and stuff like that. Because dogs can get caught up in things like that. Dogs can get caught up in collars if they're together. So little crates, what I would really use is I would use a crate to separate yourself from them. Put the dog in a crate and make sure the dog is in that area, and then be a much, much better way. I think I wouldn't do it any other way personally. Debbie Bart says, my Border Collie is a good dog, but will show teeth for various stoop reasons if my daughter. And then it cuts off. Well, I would find out why the dog is showing his teeth, but I don't accept teeth showing. It's generally a sign of heading into an aggressive area. Andrea. Okay, good to see you, Andrea. Andrea is a friend. We know each other from the Malinois world. Typical for Malinois to not like strangers. My last Mal was like that, so if anyone came over, he was secured in an outside kennel, so there'd be no contact with him, a stranger on the property. That way your dog is still protective of your property. Yeah, so this is really good advice. If you want, this is very, very good advice. Yeah, if your dog is first of all, I try to socialize my dogs. Like my dogs are fine with people. That's because if I let you in, you're fine. If you have a dog, Malinois or any breed, that doesn't like people in the house, that doesn't accept strangers, Andrew's advice is very good. Put the dog outside, right? Put the dog in a crate in another room. Don't set your dog up for failure. Get your dog socialized as much as you can at an early age. It's very hard to do at a later age. If the dog is over 2-3 years old and the dog has issues with people coming over, it's a hard nut to crack. But the only way you're going to crack it is by keeping that dog really safe and making sure that you can protect the dog and the person. Brad, I see that Facebook lets you guys make really long comments, which is really good. Let's see. Brad, my reactive rescue dog's issues have basically been eliminated with focus on play mostly. Well, and that's very good. And if you can do that, that's fantastic. I think it's a great way to do it. Jessica says, best of luck. Okay, so you don't have a question for me. Okay. Tomas says, 20-month-old Mally, female, if passing neutral, friendly dogs perfectly on a walk, but reacts if the other dog barks or growls. We've come a long way from a totally reactive, but need some tips. So you've already done the hardest part. So the dog is neutral to other dogs. So now, if somebody barks at Goofy or Maya, they're going to bark back. But I can correct it quickly now. So once the dog, you're not going to get a Malinois to not react to a dog that's lunging or barking at them. It's just not going to happen, right? It's never going to happen. I don't know that dog exists. Maybe it does, but I don't know it. I expect my dog to walk by neutral dogs. If a dog lunges at my dog and barks at my dog, and my dog lunges and barks back one time, I go, hey, knock it off. And then we keep walking. But I make a non-event of it. And the non-event of it is what keeps my dog safe. And it's what gets the picture really clear in their minds that, oh, okay, it's not a big deal. Okay. Plontneck. What should be done for fear-based aggression when the signs, snarling, barking, growling, happen as the dog lunges to bite with only very, very subtle signs before it? Well, fear is a behavior based on insecurity generally. So you need to build the confidence of the dog. That is, get the dog exposed to things at a distance where it's not going to trigger the dog. With people, that's keeping people, 10 feet away, 15 feet away, hand feeding the dog, playing tug with the dog, getting the dog to do obedience exercises, getting the dog into some kind of an environment where the dog can do things positively when those other stimuli are around. So confidence is the number one thing for all dogs, by the way. All dogs should be confident. Confident dogs are much, much safer dogs. Most of it is going to be genetic, but a lot of it can be really taught. Erna says, is it okay to use a soft muzzle on my 2-year-old German Shepherd while walking, just a precaution as he is reactive and protective? Yeah, I mean, I don't like muzzles, but if you're going to protect your dog from anything ever happening to the dog, in other words, you're not going to let another dog run in and bite your dog, then sure, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you use a muzzle? If you think it's a smart thing to do, but remember, dogs can pull muzzles off, so make sure your muzzle is on the right way. Okay, I already covered this one. Al, how to cover confidence in a dog. Okay, Sile. I hope I said that right. Is it normal for the grown male Mal 2+ years to attack male puppies 3? No, it's not. Last week, me and my puppy were taking a walk and we passed by a grown male. He broke the chain and attacked my puppy. That is not normal. I'll tell you what, think about this. Even if you were a real jerk, a real thug, you wouldn't hurt a child unless there was something really wrong with you in the head, right? That is completely illogical, right? The species goes on because the puppies are protected. So whatever dog that was needs socialization, needs training. This should not have happened. My pleasure. You're welcome for that. Grandma Wolf says, Robert, she was abused, so that's where it comes from. She is not aggressive, reactive, comfortable with people, just shy. Well, then just keep exposing her to that, right? If the dog is not aggressive, then build confidence, get her around people. But here's the thing. If a dog is insecure about people, don't let people reach up and try to pet her or give her cookies. That's a big mistake people make early on. I talked about this also on Oscar's podcast. We talked about how as soon as a dog, is fearful of people, the trick is, the trainers always say, or people who are training the dog will say, the trick is to get the dog around the people and have people give him treats. Well, no, it's not, right? That's completely counterintuitive. If a dog is fearful of people, get people around the dog who don't look at the dog, they don't talk to the dog, they don't interact with the dog, they don't give the dog treats, there's no expectations whatsoever. Once you get that, the dog will become more comfortable. Now, slowly, you can introduce those other things, but it must be done in a succession. It can't be done any other way. Okay, Seely, that's good that you put next to your name how to say your name. That's a very smart thing to do. I wouldn't own an LGD unless I had a farm or livestock that needed, well, I agree with that, 100%. Okay, I have a 2-year-old female Presa Canario since 1 month. Nighttime, she's guarding the territory, but daytime, she's not. A stranger, alone, like a new carrier getting in, she's friendly. Well, if she's friendly, that's a really good thing. That's a well-bred dog. Okay, you guys have a lot of conversations going with each other, which is great. I encourage it, but I don't want to stumble on those because I only have a couple more minutes left in this live. What is manageable fear-based aggression versus non-manageable? What determines is non-manageable? That's a great question. So first of all, things that are manageable are often determined by the person doing the management. If we're working with a fear-based dog, you want someone who's very confident and who's very neutral, right? I don't want to be needy of the dog. I don't want to be cowering over the dog. I don't want to be pushing the dog past the dog's limits. But I've seen, there's a video that's in my shelter dog training course of a dog that was a Cocker Spaniel, a small Cocker. And it was in the Ventura County shelter. And this dog was so fearful that the dog would defecate itself if anybody came near it. And there was a rescue that would take it if I could show that the dog had the ability to be worked with. And this was a situation where we had to apply flooding because it was a quick decision. We can take it or the dog stays here. And if the dog stayed there, the dog would have been killed. So I took the dog out on a line and there was a circle of people. And if you would come near the dog, if you would just touch the dog gently on the shoulder, the dog would scream like you were killing it. And what I did is I put the dog in a circle and I just let the dog walk around the circle. Nobody touched the dog. And then I slowly started touching the dog. And when the dog screamed, I didn't stop touching the dog. Because if I did that, the dog would say, oh, see, I had a reason to be afraid. He's taking it away. But if I just kept it there, the dog eventually went, huh, it's not that bad. So they would scream, the initial reaction, whoa, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Huh, it's not that bad. Because there was no follow-up that the dog expected. If the dog expected touch leads to pain, leads to torture, leads to whatever. If that follow-up never comes, then the dog has to back away from the first ideology. And it did. So a dog that's super reactive like that, a dog's defecating itself, a dog that's just lunging, sometimes a bigger dog that can't be managed physically, it's a lot harder than a smaller dog. So those would be my things here. My border collie is 3 years old and seems to be aggressive. She will show her teeth for strange reasons. If my daughter kisses the top of my head, he will growl and show his teeth. Well, that's a dog that's resource guarding and is jealous over you. So that's something that I would fix through basic structure. Put the dog in a sit, walk over to your daughter, hug your daughter, walk back. So in other words, you're not making it about you. You're making it about the issue, the obedience. Sit there, and I'm here. I'm playing with my daughter. I'm playing with my dad. I'm playing with my buddy. If the dog gets off that place, hey, no, I said get out of the place. And then I would give the dog something on that place that they might like. So there's some positive association there. But a correction for getting off the place or for getting off the sit or off the down as opposed to for this. Then it starts to make it a little bit less personal. But I've got videos on that you should check out on my site on just building structure. Okay. Kenyon, how do you go about correcting the teeth showing, especially if it's a food resource guarding issue? I hand feed. I hold the food, I give the dog food, abundance of food, and then I'll start to hold it back. Now, if the dog shows his teeth, I'll wait. I won't back away and I won't move forward. And again, the advice I'm giving you is stuff that I do. If you do it and you get bit, that's on you. I mean, this is the methodology that I've used for myself. You have to be very careful with aggression. So you might want to wear gloves, or you might want to get a professional trainer to do this. If you're a professional trainer, consider this piece of advice. So if I have a dog and I'm holding the food and the dog's showing me his teeth and I take it away, the dog has proven his position correct, that, okay, this guy's going to take my food away. Now, if I hold the food and he shows me his teeth, he's got a choice. He can either push through and lunge and bite at my hand, which is going to get him a correction. I'm going to make sure he's not going to be able to do that with using a line to back up, or he's going to go from the growling to the relax. And as soon as he relaxes, I'm going to give him the food. So he's going to start to associate his secondary, his follow-up to the first behavior where he goes. So if he regresses and kind of becomes calm, he's going to get rewarded. If he pushes further, he's going to get corrected, and he's not going to get what he wants. So that's, that, again, I'm not trying to train dog training lessons here, but I'm just trying to give you guys some advice. Okay, what is a true dominant dog? I have 3 American Pit Bull Terriers, and one is aggressive and only to the dogs in the home. Never over food or toys, but aggression starts over human affection. So that's a resource guarding issue. I haven't trained for it. Well, if you have a good trainer for that, then the dog's going to get through it. But you need to follow up on it. You need to be able to follow through with that behavior that the dog is taught. So in other words, the dog is taught this, and you have to be able to do it. It's like if I send my son away to learn to play tennis, and he comes back, and I still suck at tennis, he's not going to really be able to play tennis very well. I need to learn how to volley the ball back and forth. So you need to learn that. Let's see. I'm going to kind of scroll through here a little bit faster. Okay, I got a couple more questions I'll do. German Shepherd, 1.5 years old, 2 years of research to learn as much as possible and struggling with reactivity to cats. She's neutral around dogs and people, but cats are a very hard thing for dogs, right? Once they have that prey drive for a cat, it's a really hard thing to undo. So the best thing to do with it is just to have the dog in a crate and let the cats kind of have some free reign around and give the dog that opportunity to see it. Or often, don't let the dog chase the cat. The more the dog chases the cat, the less likely you are to, solve that problem. Okay, what's this? Jessica says, would I be willing to do an episode of pet service providers and how to determine safe and dangerous situations? Send me a request via my site, and I'll have Alan take a look at it for us. Okay, Petra, my 13-month-old German Shepherd is now mouthing my 7-year-old triplets. I can tell it's playful. It's not acceptable. I'm going to stop right there. It's not acceptable. Do not allow them to do this. First of all, contain your German Shepherd. She's 13 months old. When your triplets are out, I don't know how it works, like where your triplets are or whatever. Okay, they're 7 years old. Make sure the dog knows it is not okay to mouth people. Not good at all. Okay, this will be my last question here. Could you tell us about new videos you're considering making for the member section, a sneak peek? There's so many. I have so many videos backlogged already that I'll be putting up. But there's, a lot of one great one is going to be this puppy series that I'm doing with a friend of mine who has this little, 10-week-old, 12-week-old Labrador puppy. It's going to be a fantastic series. So guys, I'm going to end it here. I'm way over because I need to go. If you're a member, by the way, check the member section for the link. You'll go into the members live now for another half hour, 40 minutes, whatever we have there. Thank you so much for watching my video. Thank you for subscribing to this channel. If you have not yet subscribed, please go subscribe today. Hit the notification bell so you'll be notified of any lives and any new content I put up. Every week there's new content. Several times a week I put new videos up. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you letting me be a part of training your dog with you. It means the world to me. If you were one of the 3 people that I said want a copy of this book, the only way I can get this book to you, I can't push it through the camera, is for you to go to my website, robertcabral.com, fill out the contact form, mention that you want it. I have the 3 people down here, and then send me your address, and it'll only be those 3 people. I don't want no tricky stuff here. If you want it fair and square, I'll ship it out to you this week. All right. Thank you guys. God bless. Give a big hug to your dogs, and I'll see you soon. Thank you for subscribing, and be sure to check out robertcabral.com. Thanks.